Omo, who be this girl? This one go sweet die.
I must run this package.
Three men sought the exact same woman. By the time the moon had turned, two of those men had become unimaginably wealthy, lords of gold and silk overnight. But the third lost absolutely everything. You see, if you approached her with respect and she found joy when you had sex with her, you would wake up to a fortune vast enough to feed your bloodline for a century. But if she did not, you do not want to know the wrath that would swallow your life whole. One wealthy, arrogant man is about to find out the hard way. Welcome back to Afric Tales. If you love stepping into the past to uncover ancient African myths, dark legends, and animated stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button right now. Join the village, ring the bell, and let's journey deep into the heart of the story. Our story begins in the bustling, sun-baked trading town of Zara. Zara was not the most flamboyant girl in the village, but she possessed a beauty that ran deep, like the quiet rivers hidden beneath the earth. She had flawless, deep-set eyes, an elegant, confident stride, and a quiet aura that commanded the attention of anyone who truly looked. She had recently arrived in Zazao to live with her grandmother, Ina, seeking peace after too many men had made her life exhausting in her old town. One sweltering afternoon, Ina sent Zara down to the Grand Market to fetch some spices and washing soap. Her path led her straight to the largest trading post in the village, owned by a man named Tariq. Tariq was the wealthiest merchant of his generation. While others walked, he was carried. While others lived in clay and thatch, he had built a sprawling estate of polished stone. Money was his language and arrogance was his shadow. He sat outside his massive shop, flanked by two younger men, Musa, a humble apprentice to the village woodcarver, and Kabir, a sharp-witted boy who worked as Tariq's own sales assistant. As Zara approached, purchased her items, and quietly turned to leave, Musa couldn't help but exhale a long, appreciative breath. "By the ancestors," Musa whispered, leaning against a wooden pillar. "That woman is
This one go
stunning.
sweet die.
Did you see the grace in her step?" Kabir chuckled, rubbing his chin. "You are not blind, my friend. She makes perfect sense. I wouldn't mind getting to know her better." Tariq, lounging in his grand, cushioned chair, scoffed loudly. He barely glanced in Zara's direction. "Huh? Please, she's too plain. She has no gold on her wrists, no silk on her shoulders. You boys are easily impressed. I am a lord of the market. I only catch the biggest, most colorful fish. Let the small boys play in the shallow water." Tariq was used to the flashy women of the village, women who wore their wealth loudly, women who practically threw themselves at his feet to taste of his fortune. Zara's quiet, unadorned beauty was entirely lost on him. But Musa and Kabir saw what Tariq was too blind to see. A few days later, the air was heavy with the scent of approaching rain when Zara returned to the market for fresh milk and tea leaves. This time, Musa was there alone, sorting through pieces of carved mahogany. Without a word of boasting, Musa stepped forward. He gently took her items, paid the store owner from his own meager wages, and offered to walk her home before the storm broke. Tariq, watching from a distance, sneered to himself. He made a disparaging remark just loud enough for the wind to carry. Zara heard it. Her jaw tightened, and a spark of intense dislike for Tariq settled in her chest. Musa walked beside Zara down the winding, lush path towards her grandmother's compound. He was respectful, funny, and kind. He told her he found her beautiful and asked if she would honor him with a visit to his home. Zara, who was fiercely independent, looked at him carefully. "I am not looking to be tied down as a wife right now, Musa, but I enjoy your company. I wouldn't mind us being close, on my own terms. My grandmother is very protective, so we must be discreet." Musa smiled, a genuine warm expression. A woman as beautiful as you has every right to set her own rules. Come to my place tomorrow afternoon. I promise I will treat you like the queen you are." Zara agreed. The next day, Musa swept his tiny clay one-room hut until the floor shone. He bought what little sweet fruits and palm wine he could afford. He was nervous, but his intentions were pure. When Zara arrived, the afternoon sun cast a golden glow over them. They shared stories, they laughed, and eventually they had sex. Musa was attentive, prioritizing her pleasure above his own. When it was over, Zara rested her head on his chest, a deep, satisfied smile on her face. "You are truly gifted, Musa," she whispered. "I have never felt so respected or so satisfied." Musa swelled with a quiet pride. When Zara left to beat her grandmother home, Musa couldn't contain his joy. Like any young man, he went to his friends and discreetly bragged about his afternoon, confirming that Zara was not only beautiful but incredibly warm and willing for the right man. He didn't know it yet, but his respect had triggered an ancient magic. Musa slept deeply that night, but when the morning sun pierced through his small window, he woke up to a reality that shattered his mind. His tiny, dusty room was no longer empty. It was overflowing. Sacks of ancient gold coins, pure silver bars, gleaming emeralds, and stacks of modern currency were piled wall to wall. Priceless woven silks draped over his wooden chair. It was the wealth of emperors sitting right there on his dirt floor. Musa froze, the breath leaving his lungs. Terrified and shaking, he ran out, locked his door, and grabbed Kabir. When Kabir saw through the crack in the window, he almost fainted. "The ancestors have blessed you," Kabir shouted, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Your life is set forever." Musa was terrified. He refused to touch it for days, hiding indoors, trying to understand how a poor woodcarver became a king overnight. Meanwhile, Kabir's mind was working fast. He had always been a sharp, opportunistic boy. He remembered Musa's stories. Every time Zara came to the market, Kabir started giving her extra items for free. A little extra sugar here, a fresh loaf of bread there. Zara was not blind. She knew exactly what Kabir was doing, and she found his eager, clumsy charm somewhat endearing. She was a free spirit, and she noticed that Musa had mysteriously vanished from the village. One evening, finding Kabir alone behind Tariq's counter, she leaned in, a mischievous glint in her eye. "You have been hovering around me like a honeybird, Kabir. Tell me, are you all talk or can you actually back it up?" Kabir choked on his own breath, shocked by her directness, but he recovered quickly, flashing his most confident grin. "They call me the Earth Shaker, my lady. Give me 10 minutes. Kabir bolted to Tariq's grand house to beg for the evening off. He found Tariq just finishing a rendezvous with his own flashy girlfriend, Precious. Kabir pleaded, and Tariq, laughing arrogantly at the young boy's desperation, let him go. Kabir took Zara to his quarters. He was energetic, eager to impress, and threw everything he had into making sure Zara was happy. And she was. They had sex, and she left his room laughing, praising the Earth Shaker for a highly entertaining and satisfying evening. Kabir slept with a smile plastered on his face. The next morning, history repeated itself. Kabir woke up to find his own quarters buried under a mountain of unimaginable treasure. Gold, jewels, and cash literally pushed against his wooden door. Panicking, Kabir ran to Musa. Together, they sat in silence, connecting the dots. "You had sex with her," Musa whispered. "Yes," Kabir replied, his hands shaking. And the morning after, the gold appeared. The realization hit them like a thunderclap. Zara was not just a village girl. She was the vessel of an ancient, miraculous blessing. With the truth uncovered, Musa and Kabir finally embraced their new reality. Musa opened the largest lumber and carving guild in the region, building himself a magnificent home. Kabir bought out half the market, opening a massive trading post that dwarfed even Tariq's own business. Tariq watched from his balcony, green with a sickling jealousy. His two underlings had surpassed him in a matter of weeks. When he pressed them, they remained vague, but the village whispers eventually reached his ears. I must have her, Tariq declared to himself, pacing his opulent floors. If those two peasants can get rich from her, imagine what I will receive. She is my ticket to owning the entire kingdom. But there was a massive problem. Zara despised Tariq. She remembered his insults, she remembered his arrogance, and she knew all about his dramatic, toxic relationship with Precious. When Tariq started sending her expensive gifts, Zara was confused, but she pragmatically kept them. Yet when Tariq finally approached her and declared his intent to have sex with her, she shut him down with blistering coldness. You did not want me when I was just a girl in the market. You are arrogant, and you are tied to Precious. Keep your gold. I do not want you. Tariq was furious, but his greed was a sickness. He devised a new plan. If he married her, she would have no choice, and the wealth would legally be his. Without a shred of remorse, he publicly discarded Precious, breaking her heart and humiliating her. Precious, full of rage, marched to Zara's compound and caused a massive scene, insulting Zara for stealing her man.
Zara, who hated unnecessary drama, was deeply embarrassed and furious. To make matters worse, the very next evening, Tariq arrived in Ina's compound with his kinsmen, heavily laden with dowry gifts, demanding Zara's hand in marriage. Zara stood firm. She looked Tariq in the eye and refused him in front of his elders. After they left in disgrace, Ina placed a gentle hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. A woman must only share her bed and her life with a man she chooses freely, a man she loves and who brings her joy, the old woman said softly. Tariq, however, had lost his mind to greed. Rejected, humiliated, and desperate, a dark, venomous thought took root in his soul. If she wouldn't give it to him willingly, he would take it by force. The magic must still work. He would have that gold. The earth has memory. One evening, as the sky turned the color of bruised plums, Zara was walking home along a secluded, shadowy path. Tariq, his face covered in a dark cloth, ambushed her. Driven by malice and an insatiable hunger for wealth, he committed the ultimate violation. He forced himself upon her, stripping away her choice, her joy, and her peace, leaving her broken in the dirt before fleeing into the night. Zara dragged herself home, her heart shattered, tears streaming down her face. She collapsed into her grandmother's arms, weeping as she confessed the horror of what had just happened. Ina did not scream, she did not cry. Instead, an ancient, terrifying calm washed over the old woman. She looked toward the dark sky, and a low, bone-chilling laugh escaped her lips. "Do not weep, my child," Ina whispered, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 storms. "The scales of the earth are balancing. He has sealed his own doom." That night, Tariq lay in his grand bed, a twisted smile on his face. He felt victorious. He stayed awake, watching the corners of his room, waiting for the gold to materialize. He imagined his fortune multiplying tenfold, picturing himself as the undisputed king of Zazao. But as the first light of dawn broke, there was no gold. Instead, he was violently thrown from his bed by the sound of furious pounding on his heavy iron gates. "Tariq, Tariq, wake up!" a voice screamed from the street. "Your warehouses, they are burning to the ground." Panic seized his throat. Tariq scrambled out, threw himself into his expensive carriage, and whipped the horses toward the market. But halfway there, the axle snapped violently. The carriage flipped, throwing Tariq onto the hard earth, shattering the wood into useless splinters. Bleeding and disoriented, he ran the rest of the way on foot. When he reached the market, he fell to his knees. The fire was unnatural, a roaring, unstoppable inferno that had consumed his entire trading empire. Every grain of rice, every bolt of silk, every coin he had stored was reduced to grey ash. Before he could even process the devastation, a messenger arrived on horseback, out of breath. "Tariq, Tariq, your estate, a lightning strike, your house, it is gone." The world spun,
and Tariq collapsed into the dust, plunging into darkness. When Tariq finally opened his eyes, the smell of medicinal herbs filled his nose. He was in the local healer's hut. Standing over him, looking down with expressions of pity and disgust, were Musa and Kabir. Tariq grabbed Musa's tunic, his eyes wild. You both slept with her. You became kings. Why? Why am I ruined? I did it too. Where is my gold? He ripped the ivy from his arm, pushed past them, and stumbled like a madman all the way to Ena's compound. Musa and Kabir followed close behind, worried about what he might do. Tariq threw himself into the center of the compound, screaming at the top of his lungs. Zara, what curse have you put on me? Musa became rich, Kabir became rich. I took you and I have lost everything. Ina stepped out of the hut with her grandmother by her side. When Zara saw him, the puzzle pieces fell into place. It was you, she gasped, stepping back in horror. Ina stepped forward, radiating an overwhelming ancient power. The entire courtyard went dead silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. My family bears a secret passed down since the first rains. It is a blessing meant only for the husband of our daughters, a way to ensure their union thrives. She turned her sharp, piercing gaze to Musa and Kabir. If a man has sex with a woman of our blood, and she finds true joy, pleasure, and respect in his arms, the earth will reward him with unimaginable bounty. You two fools stumbled into a magic meant for a husband, but because you treated her well, and she enjoyed her touch, the earth rewarded you with bounty. Ina then turned her eyes to Tariq. Her gaze was like staring into a void. But the magic is a mirror, Ina hissed. If a man takes from us, if he forces sex upon us and causes pain, if she does not find joy in his touch, the earth will strip that man to his very bones. You tried to steal a blessing through violence, and so the earth has violently taken everything you will ever own. Ina raised a single wrinkled finger. Once the magic is activated, it leaves the girl. Zara's blessing is gone forever. You ruined her gift, Tariq, and in return, you have ruined your life. Musa and Kabir stood frozen in horror, realizing the monster Tariq had become. Wait, Tariq begged, tears cutting through the ash on his face. He crawled toward Musa and Kabir. My friends, you are wealthy now. You can help me. You can loan me money to rebuild. Ina's voice cracked like a whip. Musa, Kabir, hear me now. If either of you spends a single copper coin from your blessed wealth to help this monster, the curse will pass to you and you will join him in the dirt. Tariq let out a soul-shattering scream, collapsing face first into the soil, weeping uncontrollably as the reality of his eternal poverty crashed down upon him. Musa and Kabir, filled with immense guilt for treating Zara's companionship like a prize and overflowing with gratitude for the wealth they had received, they dedicated themselves to her well-being. They built Zara a magnificent mansion. They opened a massive, thriving clothing and textile business in her name. They ensured she would live the rest of her days as a queen, protected and independent. As for Tariq, he never recovered. The curse was absolute. If he tried to plant crops, the seeds rotted. If he tried to carry water for pennies, the buckets cracked. If he swept floors, the wind blew the dirt back in. He was reduced to a ghost of a man, dressed in rags, sitting on a broken wooden bench by the dusty roadside. Months later, as the sun began to set over Zazao, a gleaming, jet-black carriage pulled by 4 pristine horses rolled down the main road. Musa held the reins, wearing fine silk. Kabir sat beside him, adorned in gold. They were kings of the market, respected and feared. Tariq, covered in dust, stood up slowly from his broken bench. He raised a trembling hand. Musa, Kabir. The carriage slowed for just a fraction of a second. Musa looked at the wretched man in the dirt. Kabir simply turned his head away. With a flick of the reins, the horses surged forward. Tariq stood in silence, watching the dust rise and swell behind the carriage, choking on the exhaust of the wealth that should have been his. The sound of the hooves faded in the distance. He sat back down on his broken bench, utterly and entirely alone. Actions have echoes, and the earth always collects its debts. Thank you for listening to this tale. If you enjoyed this journey, do not forget to subscribe to Afric Tales, leave a like, and tell us in the comments what you think Tariq truly deserved.
Good morning.
Until next time,
Welcome.
stay blessed.